Hello and welcome to a special edition of Marx and Vincentelli. I'm Peter Marx, former theater critic for the Washington Post and New York Times. In each episode of this podcast, my co-host, Elisabeth Vincentelli of the New York Times, and I endeavor to bring you insightful and stimulating conversation about theater news, theater makers, and the current state of the arts. Most of our episodes are available to listen to for free with no paywall at marxvincentelli.substack.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like this show, we do encourage you to subscribe over at Substack, where we sometimes release special episodes just for our paid subscribers. Our last paid episode, in case you missed it, was a conversation with Anne Majette all about the Trump takeover at the Kennedy Center. Today's episode is a candid conversation with the actor, singer, and composer Adam Lambert. Our paid subscribers get to hear our entire chat with Adam, as well as Elisabeth and I discussing his current role as MC in Cabaret on Broadway, the responsibilities critics might have to replacement casts in any Broadway show, and our impressions after seeing the incredible Isabelle Huppert recently at the Skirball Center. But for the rest of our listeners, we present the slimmed-down version of our conversation with Adam, around 13 minutes from our nearly 40-minute conversation. If you enjoy the discussion and this type of programming, please consider becoming a subscriber at marxvincentelli.substack.com for the full experience. Now, on to the show with Adam Lambert.
So Adam, for a long time there was a kind of like war between like the rock kids and the theater kids in schools. Like when you were growing up, like were you like hanging out with the theater kids or the rock kids? Like were you smoking behind the gym or?
I don't remember. I don't remember any rock kids when I was in high school. I mean, it was. I don't think we had those. I mean. There was definitely like the rebels or whatnot. And that definitely was not me. I was a good boy. I was in theater,
okay.
in the drama department.
Theater, okay.
Playing dress up.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So you were in San Diego growing up, Adam. Did you, I'm always fascinated by people who possess a voice, who just have the vocal skill, and that is kind of an access card into performing. Was that it for you? Did you always have this instrument?
I think I was pretty loud as a baby, my mom said. I cried a lot. I think I must have traumatized my vocal cords from being colicky and screaming or something. I don't know. I think when I started in that theater group, I didn't have any formal training, but we were all singing. And I think after working with them for probably about a year, I was getting little parts and starting to recognize that what I was able to do with my voice was a little bit more desirable than some of the other kids or whatever you want to say. But I just started I started getting validation for it. And I think I went, there's this thing I can do. And then I started taking voice lessons at about 12 or 13. And that's when I really started working on it and learning technique and really understanding what my voice could do.
And was that still in the framework of theater in general, or were you already?
I mean, it was pretty much. It was all sort of a lot of theater music, and I was lucky enough to have a teacher that was not very fond of like the cheesy classics. She wanted me to learn kind of edgy Sondheim, left of center stuff. And I think probably while I was in high school, I started being more aware of like the rock pop musicals, the ones that did sound like other styles of music, and definitely gravitating towards those. And then of course, growing up doing theater, I listened to a lot of show tunes. And then I think when I was a teenager, I started listening to pop music a lot. And that shifted my ear and sort of what I liked.
So how did the role of the MC finally come your way? How did that happen?
I saw the production in London because that's where it started. I saw Eddie, and I went to go see it at sort of on a whim. I was staying in the hotel across the street, and I saw a poster, and it said Kit Kat Club, and I went, wait a minute, is that like the club from Germany? Because I've been there, and that's wild. Or is it like, what is it? Because their marketing is really interesting and kind of different. And then I went online, I looked it up, and I went, oh, Cabaret, oh, cool. Oh, Eddie Redmayne, oh, cool. And I was intrigued, and I bought a ticket. I invited a friend, and we went and watched it, and it was just so cool. I was so impressed with how they rethought so much of it, and the sort of creative staging and the production design was like really different and had a really interesting perspective, and I just loved it. And then I don't exactly know how it happened, but over the next 6 to 8 months, at some point, somebody from my team had gotten into a conversation with somebody from theirs. I'm not sure exactly who made which introduction, but interest started growing about me maybe playing the part. And I was given the idea, and it was presented to me, and I think the person that presented to me, I'm not working with them anymore, but I think they were kind of like, you don't want to do this, right? And I went, well, actually, I actually think it would be incredible and really fun and really magical. And I think, having been in the music industry and toured with Queen and done my own music, I'm definitely going to continue doing that. But I missed theater. There was a part of me that really missed that world and that art form and the people. And it had been, before I accepted it, it had been like 15 years since I'd done anything. So like on a stage as a musical theater performer, and I was like, you know what? I think my spirit would benefit from this. I think this could be really lovely and a nice sort of departure from what I have been doing and a way to sort of reconnect with a different part of my artistry, and that's exactly what happened.
What's crazy is that you started the run in September of 2024, and of course the context in this country, in the US, has changed dramatically since. Have you felt the audience responding differently, or even your own performance responding? Like, have you felt a change since November and in January, when it feels like everything has kind of gone crazy?
I have. I mean, to be honest, if you do a show for 6 months, any performer will probably find new layers, you know what I mean? That's pretty normal. But I think that everything that's going on in the outside world is definitely having an effect on all of us. It makes it a lot more real. So to access these feelings, especially in the second act, when we really are confronted with the darker themes, I think it's easier to access what that really feels like. I remember the day after the election results. That was a heavy day to go to work. And a very heavy day to ask the audience, so life is disappointing. That's like my third line in the show. And I, and as the MC, the brilliance is that you get to break the fourth wall, which is so much fun. And you don't get to do that in a lot of roles. And I've been given a lot of freedom to improv a bit, especially in the first half where it's a bit looser. And I just asked them, I said, so life is disappointing, election's disappointing? And everybody in the audience kind of collectively groaned. And I'm sure there were a few people in there that probably thought, I'm actually really happy that it went the way it did. And, hopefully the thing I always think about, doing Broadway and having an audience that is found to be a lot of tourists. We forget sometimes, like, oh, right. I mean, some of the people in the audience are probably Republican. You know what I mean? And
of course.
I don't think
there are theater lovers on the conservative side of the spectrum.
Of course. I don't know why they're going to come see this Queer as Hell.
Right.
I don't know if this is quite their show, but but if it is something that somebody that's a bit more conservative or buttoned up, it would come see. Hopefully what they're getting out of it is, a bit of shock. I think in the first half, I always try to I feel like the MC's a bit of a provocateur. I think that's what he does. But then hopefully by the end, there's hopefully a sentiment of, I didn't look at it that way. Maybe I need to think about some things. I think it's that kind of a piece of entertainment that sticks with you and leaves you asking questions.
It's interesting how, it's true. And even in the architecture of some of the numbers, the audience has to pivot with you. There's of course, if you could see her through my eyes, there's this line about Leben. I don't know what the German is. Live and let live, basically. What's the word?
Yeah, Leben und Leben lassen. Yeah.
And when you say it, and when I saw the performance over the weekend, the audience applauded, which I'd never heard before. That was new, and I think that was a reflection of, I think, a sympathy and empathy with your character and how you portray it. And then, of course, and this has been commented on, Adam, and I know that this happens occasionally, then my audience on that last line, she wouldn't look Jewish at all. I'm Jewish. And the audience, there were giggles. There were a lot of giggles. Yes. And you very movingly, because I started crying, you said, no, listen to the words. This is not funny. And I thought, and someone yelled back, you're right.
Oh, yeah, that was that show. I remember that show.
And I was because I was like, I got teary. It felt like you were standing up for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's like I never want to try to come off preachy in this role because I don't necessarily think that's what it's for. But the whole show exists to teach us something. It's so that you walk away and you understand something different about a group of people's experience. And I think, apathy is a toxic, energy. And I think it's something that we're noticing a lot of as a coping mechanism. People, and myself included in moments, I find myself with everything going in the world kind of wanting to bury my head in the sand because it's just easier, to pretend like everything's fine. And, that theme exists in the show as well. I mean, Sally says it herself. She's kind of like, or Cliff says it to her in a scene in Act 2 where he's just trying to make jokes and make light of everything. And he's going, hey, are you ever serious about anything? Like, if you're not against this, you're for it. And I think there's so many little key moments, especially in Act 2, that are real takeaway moments. And I think, if you could see her as sort of sandwiched in two very powerful scenes. And so I get sometimes a little disappointed if people haven't picked up on what we're laying down, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's not me, Adam, the actor, getting disappointed, but it's the MC being disappointed. Sure. He's dealing with the reality that all the things that he loves, his livelihood, his friends, his community, everything is at stake. Everything is at risk. And he's heartbroken and he's really scared.
But what's interesting to you about working in that different form? Like what are some of the things that you find are maybe a little harder? Because, you can't tell a story in a 3 or 4 minute song. Or
do you know what's so funny is so much of pop music is about being cool. Like that's kind of what it is, whether we like it or not. Like it's either a great, brilliantly written, once in every 5 years ballad, or it's like, I'm cool. So I think with musical theater, I think the brilliance is that because the goal of the music is to tell a story, it alleviates you from the goal of the music being, recognize how cool I am.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what I mean? So I think, or either how cool I am or how hot I am or how angsty I am. I think pop music, a lot of it has to do with just sort of supporting a brand now. I think with the freedom that comes with detaching that from the songwriting and getting to write somebody else's feelings and somebody else's story as an that's been really cool.
Thank you for being a Marx and Vincentelli podcast listener. If you liked this excerpt and would like to hear more, you can help support our making this type of programming by subscribing at marxvincentelli.substack.com. We have a lot of great shows ahead, and we look forward to bringing them to you. Until next time, I'm Peter Marx, and on behalf of Elisabeth Vincentelli, I say, Auf Wiedersehen, ciao for now.